In this course, you're going to learn how to cut and sew this beautiful corset with bra caps and a draped skirt. So this is a very easy tutorial. I'm going to start by showing you how to draft the pattern on the pattern paper. Then we're going to cut the fabric, and later on we're going to sew our beautiful corset. So let's look at the tools that we're going to need to sew the dress before we draft the pattern. So this is what we're going to need in order to sew this beautiful dress. I'm going to be using this zipper for the back. If you want, you can put eyelets on your back. Then we have the pins, we have the pair of scissors, I have the beautiful fabric, and I'm also going to be using this other fabric, and I have my tailor's ham that is homemade. I'll be using this to press my fabric onto the bra caps. After sewing the fabric onto the bra caps, I'm going to be pressing onto the tailor's ham, pressing the seams open on the tailor's ham. Then I'm going to be using my measuring tape and the bias binding. If you want, you can make your own bias, or you can buy store-bought bias. So I just got this bias to put on top, and I also have my glue gun. If you want glue, you can use any type of fabric glue. So let's look at the pattern drafting, the tools that we need when drafting the pattern. So like I said, first we're going to make the pattern on the pattern paper, then we're going to sew. So this is a measuring tape. I'll need the marker, the pair of scissors, and the pattern drafting paper, the pins, this ruler. We're going to use the ruler, the bias, the bra caps, and of course the pattern drafting paper. So let's start by drafting the pattern on the pattern drafting paper. So I have my pattern paper that I'm going to fold at the center. If you want, you can draft it directly onto the fabric, but I wanted you guys to see clearly. That's why I'm using the pattern drafting paper. And after folding at the center, we have this folded side and this other side which is open. So I'm going to start by placing my measuring tape by taking my shoulder to bust measurement. I'm going to mark my shoulder to bust measurement. Then I'm going to draw a horizontal line across. Then next I'll take my shoulder to under bust. So usually the under bust is 3 inches below the bust line, or 3.5 inches. If you have a bigger bust, it can be 3.5 to 4 inches. Medium busts is 3 inches below the bust line. So I'm just going to draw a horizontal line. Then next I'm going to take the measurement of my shoulder to waist measurement. And also I'm going to add hemming allowance of 1 inch. Shoulder to waist measurement, you can add hemming allowance or joining allowance, because this top is going to be joined to the skirt in order to make a dress. But if you're just making a shirt, you can add hemming allowance. Then I'm going to get my bra caps. So from this part, I'm going to go inwards by 1/2 inch from the folded part, by 1/2 inch. Then once we open it, it will be a 1 inch distance. Remember, the pattern paper is on fold, right? So when you take away 1/2 inch at this point, once you open, you're going to have 1 inch. So this is where you're going to start placing your bra caps. The bra caps should be placed 1/2 inch away from the paper, and then they should lie on the under bust line. So don't place them like that, but place them 1/2 inch away and let them lie on the under bust line. So this is how you do it. Then you can trace out your bra caps. So I'm just going to get my marker and I'm going to measure my bra caps. Remember, 1/2 inch away and line on the under bust line. So for the under bust, you can either measure from the tip of your boob to under the bust or just get 3.5 inches for medium size, 3 inches or 3.5 to 4 inches. So after removing the bra cups, I'm now going to get my bust circumference divided by 4 plus seam allowance, and my waist circumference divided by 4 plus seam allowance. So bust circumference divided by 4 plus seam allowance, I'm going to mark it right here. Then we'll move on to you can measure under your under bust, divide by 4, and your waist, divide by 4. Then you're going to connect and cut out the pattern. So this is going to be the front. You're going to cut the same one for the back as well. The only difference is that for the back side, you're going to add zipper allowance, and the back won't have the bra cups. So I'm just going to cut out my fabric. So this is the fabric for the back and front, and like I said, the back will have this is the opening I'm opening for the back for the zipper allowance. So the back will have 2 pieces and there will be no bra cups on the back. So you're going to cut the fabric and the lining as well. You're going to cut the same way you cut the fabric, and your lining will also be cut the same. So this is the front. As you can see, the front has bra cups, and you're also going to go ahead and cut the same. So sewing the boning channels. So these are the boning channels that I'm going to sew on. This is the bias. Remember, I showed you guys the bias that we're going to be using. I'm going to stitch 1 here, 1 at the center, and I've marked with my chalk, as you can see, and 1 at the center here. So I'm just going to take this to my sewing machine, but the lining is not going to have the boning channels. I'm just sewing it on the fabric. So I'm going to stitch here, there, here, and on the other side. Then I'm also going to do the same. This is the front side. I'm also going to do the same for my back side. I'm going to put 2 boning channels on the back. So I'm going to stitch this side and that side and that side. So this is the other back side. I'm going to go ahead and I'll do the same. So let's just take this to the sewing machine and I'll show you how it's supposed to be done. So after sewing the boning channels, as you can see, this is how you sew the boning channels. This is the bias, and this is where we're going to put the boning. So now let's insert the boning in the channels. So you can either use Regiland boning, which is the type of boning where you can sew on with the needle, or you can use the hard boning whereby the needle can break, you can't sew on top of it. I'll advise you to get Regiland boning because you can stitch on it. So I have my boning, but in this tutorial I didn't have Regiland boning. I'm just using the ordinary hard boning. I'm going to insert my boning into the boning channels, and I'll make sure that the boning is half an inch smaller. So I'll cover my bra cups with fabric. So in order to cover my bra cups, I have this fabric. I'll measure the largest size of my bra cups. So here I have 6. Then I'll add 1 inch, making it 7, 1 inch for seam allowance. Then I'll get this fabric. I have 2 fabrics, 1 for each, and I'm also going to do the same for my lining. So I'll fold at the center, and then again, or more like we're making a circle skirt. Then I'm going to make a radius. I'm going to make a shape of a circle. So on this tip here, remember I measured my bra cups 6 inches. So 6 inches plus 1 inch, which is 7 inch. 7 inches divided by 2 will give me 3.5 inches. So from this tip, not on the opening side, on the open side, but on this enclosed side, I'm going to start making a round circle like. I'll just keep rotating it. So this is my fabric. I'll do the same for my lining, and I also cut my other fabric. Remember the lining, we cut the same way we cut the fabric is the same way we cut the lining. So I'll do the same on my lining as well. Then I'm going to connect. Then I'll cut out. So I'm going to do the same, and after opening, I'm going to find the midpoint. I'll just measure. So once you open it, it looks round, as you can see. So I'm just going to close it back. Then I'm going to find the midpoint. I'm just going to fold my measuring tape. Then I'll find the midpoint. Then on this midpoint, on the sides, I'm going to go up by 1/2 inch on this side, and on the other side, I'll go up by 1/2 inch as well. Then I'm going to connect to the midpoint. So this is a little dot I'm making to cover the bra caps well. Then I'm going to cut out the dots. I'm just going to align them well. You can use your pins before you cut so that you can cut perfectly. So I'm going to do the same with the other one, and I'm also going to cut my lining as well, similar shape. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine. I'll cut the other one as well, the same way I did, and I'm also going to cut my lining as well. And I'm going to stitch this side, then I'm going to use it to cover my bra caps. So these are the two. So I've stitched them, as you can see. I've stitched the dart, and I'm going to press open on my tailor's ham. I'm going to press open the seams, sewing bra caps to the corset. So after sewing the fabric onto my bra caps, as you can see, I'm going to sew them to my corset. So guys, I'm going to show you how I managed to sew the fabric onto the bra cap. As you can see, there's a rough side and the smooth side. You're going to attach it, sew it on the rough side. Then the smooth side should be on top. So I'll show you how I managed to attach my fabric onto the caps. And this is the rough side I'm talking about. That's the one we're going to sew on. It's going to face down. So this is the how I sewed the fabric onto the bra caps. So I pinned, this is the fabric, I sewed half of it, then half was open, the right side of the fabric facing the bra caps. I stitched halfway, as you can see. Then I trimmed off the excess fabric and I pressed the seams open. Then I turned like I am doing. I hope you guys can see. This is how I did it. So this is what I meant by the smooth side and the rough side. Hope you guys can see now. So this rough side is the one we're going to sew down and trim off the fabric well. That's the one that I'm stitching down. So you can go ahead and stitch on top of it. Then that's the rough side that I was talking about. That is going to be stitched down. So I've just sewn my corset, as you can see, my bra caps onto the corset, and now I'm going to attach the bones. So after sewing your lining will be attached in the inside. if you have your lining. If you don't want your lining, well and good, but if you want a lining, you just make the same, and then the same way we sew other dresses, the lining and the fabric is cut the same. So next we're going to cover the bra cups with this applique. So you can attach the applique wherever, however you wish. If you want to cover it everywhere, you can cover it. So I'm just going to show you how to cut the lace applique. So I'm going to be using my soldering tool. This is a soldering tool that I've plugged, soldering iron that I've plugged into the socket. I'm going to wait for it to get hot. As you can see, I've attached it in this, I've plugged it in the socket. I'll wait for it to get hot. So once it gets hot and it starts producing smoke, then I'll be able to use it. So let's just wait for it to get hot. So I've just switched it on. So as you can see, it's hot and it's producing smoke. If you want, you can just use your scissors to cut your lace applique, but I prefer using a soldering iron. And this tool is very cheap in my country. At first I thought it was very expensive, but I was shocked to find it's very affordable, and I managed to buy it. So I'm just going to place my applique, and I'm going to trim out the parts that I want. So this is how you do it with the soldering iron. It trims out so beautifully without fraying. Yeah. So I'm going to be using this, and I'll cut out the other parts that I want to use. So you can cut out as many as you wish. Then you can applique by hand. You can use your hand, or you can sew on them on the sewing machine. But since these are bra cups, I'll just use my hand. I'm just going to stitch on them with my hand, inserting the boning channels. So now we're going to insert the boning channels, and like I said, you can use the Ridgeland boning, the one you can sew on, or this hard boning. So make sure the boning is half an inch shorter than the channel, so that you can leave room for attaching it to the skirt. But if you're using Ridgeland boning, you can use a long one, because Ridgeland boning doesn't break the needle. It will allow you to sew even with a needle. So I'm just going to cut half an inch shorter. Then I'm going to insert. So I'll do the same for all of them. Then at this point, if you want to make a corset top, then this will be the end after inserting the boning and hemming the bottom. But if you want to make it into a dress like I did, you can make a skirt pattern, and drape it down, then stitch. So this is how you easily make your corset dress. Just make another skirt pattern, and then sew the applique onto your corset. So this is the applique I've sewed onto the corset. As you can see, I just stitched by hand, and then I attached my skirt to the bodice of the corset, and I came up with this beautiful